only to discover that the man you love is planning to murder you and take everything. This is the story of Margaret Chen. At 62, Margaret was a biotech legend. 17 patents, a company worth hundreds of millions, and a groundbreaking deal that would change cancer treatment forever. On paper, she had it all. In reality, she was completely alone. Her first marriage ended because of her 80-hour workweeks. Her daughter barely spoke to her. Her luxurious glass mansion overlooking the Pacific felt cold and empty, beautiful from the outside, hollow on the inside. Just like her life. Then David Mercer entered her life. Charming, silver-haired, and seemingly kind. He wasn't impressed by her money. He was impressed by her mind. He brought her wildflowers, listened to her stories about failed experiments and breakthrough discoveries, and made her laugh for the first time in years. 6 months later, they were married. No prenup. Margaret was tired of living behind walls. For once, she chose to trust completely. It was the biggest mistake of her life. For 3 years, everything seemed perfect. David cooked for her, supported her through tough times, and made the empty mansion feel like a real home. Even her skeptical lawyer admitted, "I was wrong about him." Margaret was happier than she had been in decades. But happiness, she would soon learn, can be the most dangerous blindfold of all. Until one night, the phone rang. It was David's dead first wife. She was very much alive, and she had a terrifying warning. His real name is David Kozlow. He's a professional predator. He marries wealthy older women, gains their trust, and destroys them. He's done it before. To me, to others, and you. You're his biggest target yet. Margaret's hands were shaking as she hung up the phone. She sat alone in the dark of that glass mansion, the same home she had finally learned to love again. And for the first time in years, she cried. Not quietly, she sobbed. Because she didn't want it to be true. She had let someone in. She had believed again. And some part of her already knew the call was real. She didn't want to believe it. But Margaret Chen was a scientist. And scientists don't ignore evidence. They follow it, no matter how much it hurts. So, she started digging. What she uncovered was horrifying. David had already quietly stolen $4.7 million from their joint accounts. He had forged her signature on loans using their home as collateral. And worst of all, he had increased her life insurance policy to $15 million, with himself as the only beneficiary. He wasn't just stealing from her. He was preparing to kill her. Most women would have confronted him, called the police immediately. But Margaret didn't panic. She went back to bed that night, lay next to the man she now knew wanted her dead, and stared at the ceiling in silence. And by morning, she had a plan. For the next 2 months, she played the perfect, loving, slightly distracted wife. She laughed at his jokes. She cooked with him on Sundays. She let him believe he was winning. She let him get bolder. All while secretly recording every conversation, monitoring every transaction, and building an airtight case alongside private investigators and the FBI. She was not running away from the predator. She was leading him, step by step, into a trap. Then came the day. In her lawyer's elegant conference room, David arrived smiling, relaxed, confident. He thought he was about to become a very rich man. He had no idea it was already over. The moment he sat down, the lawyer looked him calmly in the eyes and said, "Before we begin, could you confirm your real name, Mr. David Kozlow?" His smile froze. The color drained from his face. In minutes, the room filled with cold, overwhelming evidence. Fake identities, records of previous marriages, forged documents, offshore accounts, and clear, documented proof that he had been planning her murder. David panicked. He screamed. He threatened. He looked around the room for an exit, that wasn't there. But it was too late. The FBI agent stepped forward and the handcuffs clicked shut. As they led him out, Margaret stood and looked at the man she had once loved. She didn't yell, she didn't cry. She simply asked, "Why? I would have given you anything if you had just been honest." David stared at her, not with shame, but with pure ugly hatred, and spat. "Women like you deserve to be destroyed." Margaret held his gaze for a long moment. Then she gave him a slow, cold smile and said, "Then enjoy the next 34 years. I hear the food is terrible." David Kozlow was sentenced to 34 years in federal prison, with no possibility of early release, convicted on charges of fraud, identity theft, forgery, and conspiracy to commit murder. Margaret recovered nearly all of her stolen money. She rebuilt, and then she did something no one expected. She launched a foundation dedicated to protecting other victims of romance fraud, funding legal support and awareness campaigns across the country. 1 year later, standing on stage at a major scientific awards ceremony, Margaret looked into the camera with calm, steady eyes and said, "I survived the ultimate betrayal. I sat across the dinner table from the man who wanted me dead. And I smiled, because I knew something he didn't." She paused. Patience is more powerful than rage. Precision is more powerful than panic. And justice always finds its way. Then, quietly, almost to herself, she added, "To anyone out there who feels like they've been destroyed, you haven't been. You've just been tested, and you are stronger than you know."